welcome to YouTube Model Builders Tuesday night presentation. Tonight we have a great pleasure of having Steve Montgomery with the Carroll Valley Railroad. Tonight's presentation is Model Railroad Operations. Just a reminder for all you viewers to keep checking with the YouTube Model Builders websites at youtubemodelbuilders.com for all the latest news in the eMag, which is bi-monthly. Viewers can sign up for a subscription link to be emailed to you. Plus, the eMag is always looking for model railroaders to send in articles and pictures to be published. Plus, don't forget about the new improved presentations with Gino, Barry, and Mike MRR Tech Shows, newly added and normal moderated presentations with Dude, myself, and plus don't forget about the Thursday night general hangouts with Johnny Reb of Southeast Rails. Hope you guys enjoyed tonight's presentations. Without further ado, here is your presenter, Steve Montgomery.
Well, hi, gentlemen. How are you all doing?
Doing good.
Oh, good. I guess we're going to be talking about operations. If any of you are familiar, the Carroll Valley Railroad was in the July issue of Model Railroader. And if you all have it handy in front of you, if you have any questions about it or how we do things on it, I'll do my best to answer and bring you up to date on the thing. So, you guys got any questions?
Car cards. How do they work, and how do you go about applying them? Do you use them for all your rolling stock, or just some of them, or?
We use them for every car on the layout has a car card. We use the micro-marked car cards. So, and there's 4 destinations on the waybill slip. Usually what I try to do is run a car from staging or the interchange tracks onto the layout and then run it off again, back on and off again. I attempt to get all the cars, I have about 60 or so on there right now, try to get them all off the layout so that I don't have the same cars on all the time. I trying to run it like a real railroad. So, and I have the 4 interchange tracks, so I'm constantly moving cars on and off. You can see on the drawing there if it's in front of you.
At the risk of sounding real dumb,
yeah,
I understand car cards is somehow telling you how to route your cars, but could you explain it for somebody that's never used them or never heard of it before? I'm not
okay. Micromart sells them. You get this card, which is you put the information on your rail car on this. It has the kind. In this case, it's a tank card. Has the identification number, and usually I try to put the name on the car. In this case, it's Ewing Oil, and then you set. All your cars will have its own private or its own separate yellow card. You take the freight waybills here, kind of like that. It's not real good, but anyway. You put a destination, and you start with, these cards have a waybill number 1, 2, and then on the back side, it's 3 and 4. So what you do is take about half your cars to begin with and put them at industries on the layout, and then mark them as to where you want these cars to go on the first round. That would be on waybill position number 1. And then you figure, okay, from there on your next operating session, where do you want them to go? You'll put them on number 2. Now this one, for example, has McGraw Oil, and this is where the car is right now. It's at McGraw Oil in Equinox. When it leaves Equinox on the next local, it will be going to Hopkinsville. That's off the layout. When that train returns back onto the layout, it'll be switched out in Jackman and it's going to Coder, another interchange. So it's just going to be traveling across the layout basically. But because of the way it's routed, it has to come into Jackman, has to go on the local or the Coder Extra, and then run to Coder. From Coder, it will come back into Jackman on the next time it operates, and then it's going to be shipped to Thurman, which is off the layout again. From Thurman, then it goes, once you do that, you flip the card over. Every time you move the car to the next location, when you're done, you flip it over to the next number. And then after Thurman, it'll come back on the layout, back into Jackman, has to go on the Equinox turn, and it goes back to McGraw Oil again. So there you have spent at least 4 operating sessions to get this car traveling around. If you don't run the interchange train on a night, then it could be 5 or 6 times before you see this car again on the layout. The beauty of doing these things is that if you have, like I do, my industries normally hold 1 car. There's some that'll hold multiple cars. But if I find that when I set it up and I'm ready to run, if I start flipping these cards for the next movement and I see that, whoop, I've got 2 or 3 cars going to McGraw Oil at the same time, I can just change it to the next number and move it another direction. That way I'm not slamming an industry with cars. I tried the JMRI system. It won't work on my layout due to the length of my yard tracks. They're just too short. So I find these to work real good. I'm real happy with them, actually. It takes some fine-tuning, but they're working real good for me.
The whole point of them, then, is just to organize which cars go into which industries, and from which industry those cars go to another industry, and so on. And this just helps you kind of keep it organized instead of you just looking at it and go, okay, I think I'll put this in there.
Right. Right. If you just run a train load of cars, okay, and you take off out of the yard, okay, let's say you got a couple box cars, maybe a hopper, tank, or whatever. You go to the first industry, some people will swap box car for a box car or tank car for tank car, stuff like that. You just swapping cars. Mine are set up like, okay, for like Stolfus over here in Equinox. Stolfus is a machine shop. They're going to make metal parts. Well, a loaded car from Stolfus can go either over to Menasha at North Junction, or it could go up to, say, Miracle Furniture. It could go to Willie Leaks Plumbing. It could go off the layout, too. So I try to have a destination for every car. It's more realistic that way, I found. I don't want to just, run and drop and pick up. I want it to actually make you think about, okay, for example, let's say Stolfus is going to be going to, let's say the car at Stolfus is going to be going to Hopkinsville. The Equinox local will pick it up, take it back into Jackman. Now, that's the end of the operating session for that. The yard man has to make that up into the cars that are going to be picked up for the Hopkinsville interchange train. The next operating session, if that train runs, that car will be put on that train and it goes to Hopkinsville. Then it will not come back on the layout again until the Hopkinsville train runs again, depending on how many people I got here and how late we want to make it. So at least that way the car has a destination, and every one of my cars has a destination based on its previous location. Okay, like the full pantry food, normally they'll go off the layout. But there are times when I'm going to send a food shipment from Full Pantry in Jackman and take it down to Valley Foods over in Equinox. Makes sense. You got food going across the layout to food, something like that. Team tracks, they might have they might go from one area to another because they're running less than loads. Okay, and that's kind of how I've set everything up, Bill.
Now, your interchanges, are those actually just a stub track then?
Right. Yeah.
Now, when you run your cars off onto the interchange, then are you running the locos off up off onto there also, or are you just shoving the cars down onto that section where they're out of sight?
Okay, let's take Coder. Coder Interchange there at Del Barton has about a 36-inch hidden track goes underneath where the fireplace is. So if you bring cars out of Jackman and you have to drop them off at Coder, but if you're not scheduled to pick up any of the cars that are sitting there, you have to pull those cars out, put the ones you're dropping off behind the cars that are sitting there already. So in other words, Coder and Salt Fork, you put the drop-off cars in front or behind, behind the cars that you're going to be picking up eventually. Okay? Same as at the coal mine. When you drop off empties, they have to go behind any of the loaded ones that are sitting there. Just makes another operational challenge.
Okay, so you're just spotting them. You're not actually going to stick the locomotives up in there or anything. You're just going to go and spot the cars for the next operating session.
Right, that's all they are. It's interchange. So I don't send engines off the layout. The only engines that come in and off the layout are coming from the staging area at Hopkinsville, Thurman, and New River. Those engines will come in, do what they have to do, and then take their trains off again. The other interchanges, we just drop the cars off so that in theory or imaginary, whatever you want to say it, those cars would then be taken by another railroad to their destination. In this instant, Coder and any points east. We use anything east goes towards Coder.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
it mixes everything up.
Okay, so basically, I mean, now does every car necessarily have to have a car card, or can it be part of a mixed freight that's going to be shoved up through there?
No. Every one of my cars has a car card. Okay, it has a manifest. If you were running like, what we were talking about, if you was running like a logging train, and you're just sending cars up into the woods to pick up logs, I wouldn't do a car card at that point. But anytime a car is going to, unless you're running a car between 2 points constantly, then it should have a destination. It should have a manifest card as a destination to say where it's going. It's more realistic that way. And it's more of a challenge for the operators because now you have to figure out, okay, I'm going to pick this car up. I can't just take it to where it's going because my train isn't going there. So I'm going to have to take it someplace, drop it off. And then from there, it has to be picked up. Like, okay, for example, I have a sand car, a covered hopper that leaves usually Thurman, and it has to go to it has to go down to Otis Coal in Equinox. It can come in to I'm sorry, did I say Thurman? It comes off the New River line. Okay, it'll come with the coal cars, but the coal cars do not go down to Equinox. That train doesn't go down there. So what it has to do after it switches out the coal mine, it'll drop down to North Junction and drop that car off on the track for Menasha. Then the local has to pick it up, bring it back up to the yard. Then it gets put on the Equinox train. It'll be taken to Equinox and spotted at Otis Coal. And then to go back to New River, it has to go back to Jackman, back on the local, the Carroll Valley, or the Valley local, taken back down, dropped off at Menasha. Then the coal train, as it passes by, it has to stop and pick it up, and then it takes it off the layout into staging at New River. See what I mean?
Okay.
It can get a little complicated at times.
Now, do you have cars that actually just simply don't have a destination, or what would you do with a car that did not have a destination to go and go to? Would you just pull it off and put it up down onto an interchange track, or?
No, everything has a destination. Everything. Even a car, if a car is scheduled to go to Thurman or Hopkinsville or Coder, it says in the manifest, like right there, it'll say Hopkinsville. Okay, and then on the back side, on the next one, it'll be Thurman, and then it also has, there's coder. So every car has a destination. No car is going to be sent out without a destination that it's going to. Otherwise, it would never get dropped off anyplace. It would just leave and then come right back into the yard again.
Okay, the reason why I asked that is because on my layout, I plan on putting in an ash pit, and so one thing I didn't plan for when building my layout, where do I take this ash car to and from? Because there is no place on the layout to be able to go and dump the ashes. So what would you end up doing with that car? Would you take them cars and bring them out there to the interchange and then just leave them off the layout for the next operating session? Or
you could, like what I do, when my cars go to the interchange track, I just drop them there. And then the next scheduled pickup, they'll come back on the layout. And all you need is like if you have a part of your layout that has a passing siding, just run another track off that siding, take it back towards the backdrop behind a hill, small hill or something. Have the track just dead end back there because it's all visual anyway. All you're doing is giving the, what's the word I'm looking for? You're giving it the impression that you're going off the layout. And that way you have cars coming in and out your layout, and it's more realistic that way. Even if you have a 4x8 layout with a circle, if you put an interchange track on it, you can actually take your cars off, put them on a shelf, put new cars on the interchange track, and bring them on the layout. That way you're not running the same cars all the time.
Okay.
What was that with the, here, this is all you need. Let me see if I can show you. See, like right there? If you can see that, but that would be the interchange coming down over here. Here's your main line coming through. There's a siding. You can run around, push some cars down on the interchange, and then when you're done, take them off the layout, replace them with some other cars, and then you got new ones coming on the layout. And you can make up a destination for anything. I mean, some of the guys, you have room on your waybills here for routing, via shipper, address. You can put anything on here that you want and say that, okay, this car is going to leave the layout. It's going to go to a certain interchange via the Salt Fork Railroad, and it's headed for Richmond, Virginia, whatever. You can write all that on here. I don't do it. I don't think it's necessary the way I run, but I try to keep it fairly simple in that aspect anyway. You can get too much paperwork.
So, Steve, this is Bill. Actuality, what you could do is, like you have the Valley Foods and Full Pantry. Like, I could exchange with you my Cannavelli pasta cards, and you can run them technically on. You could put them, change them out once your train goes into your interchange, and then bring the Cannavelli pasta cards out on a new set, basically saying, these are coming from the South Brooklyn Railroad to the Valley Foods drop-off pasta product.
Right.
Correct?
Yep. Yes, sir.
And once you empty them at Valley Foods, they go in, they get taken, whatever, make-believe taken down. Then you can run the train, the two empty cars back to the interchange, thus basically being picked up by South Brooklyn Railroad to be hauled cross-country back to Cannavelli Pasta Factory.
Right, yeah. And there's a place on your car card. It says, empty car, return to, and I wrote Hopkinsville on this. So basically, the reason being is since it's at McGraw Oil, and it's going to be offloaded with, gasoline or oil or diesel, whatever, it's technically empty. Now it's going to go back to Hopkinsville.
Right.
Now I don't need the manifest if the car is empty. Okay? Since it's going there anyway, I could just leave the card out of it, but I keep the manifest in going to Hopkinsville because otherwise when that car gets over there, then I've got to go dig out another waybill and figure out where the car is going. This way, I've got it already all set up. So I can, when I'm ready to run an operating session, I can go through this layout and I can have every car lined out in less than 10 minutes. I'm ready to go.
What's the maximum length on your train? Like, say, if myself and Troy were to come over and operate, and we were given instructions, what's the maximum length of a train that could be run?
Going to the interchanges, it's about 6 cars. The Equinox train can run up to about 10, but it gets real crowded.
After 10?
Yeah, I try not to go over 10. I like about 7, actually, 6 to 7 cars. But it also depends, too, on how many cars you're picking up on the local, how many you're having to drop off. There's times when I have to run an extra train because I have too many cars and I can't make the grade.
Okay.
Because right there behind Menasha, from North Junction up to Beavis Crossing, that is a pretty good grade right there. Or it shows on in the book, it shows a bridge. It's not. It's a crossing.
Okay.
So
I don't like double heading. I don't think the railroad's big enough for that. Though there are times where, like number 9, it doesn't have much pulling power. A lot of it depends too on what engine we're using. Number 9, I'm lucky to run 4 or 5 cars up that grade. The diesels I don't have a problem with. You know, so the guy who is running the yard, he's in charge of all that, and he has to make sure he doesn't overload the trains when they pull out. That's why we run a lot of extras. That brings us up to like 10 different trains a night that can be run.
is there any kind of situation where when you're operating that it causes a sort of a puzzle that has to be unraveled, if you know what I mean? How do I explain this? Like you have a certain amount of empties that have to be picked up, but usually when I operate, I'm trying to phrase this in a way that makes sense so everybody understands it. Like usually when we get into operations, I notice in the limited times of people's houses I've been over, they do the easy thing of having the cars that are going to be first dropped off in the front of the train.
Right.
So easy
Yeah, that's called blocking. Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to like making it a little difficult by placing those cars a little further back.
Right.
Making
But
it
you have, in our operation, we don't care about that. The engineer's pretty much on his own. So depending on how the yard master's feeling, he may, I mean, you have 2 cars going to Menasha, but they may be one in the front of the train, one in the back of the train.
Right, exactly. To give it more, not technically, but
yeah, technically that's not how they would do it, but no. We do it because it's fun.
Yeah, exactly right. That's my thinking. You know, make it a little bit more interesting.
Oh yeah, yeah. But it's like trying to run Equinox. That is a bear to run. Hence that's why we had the laugh track down there. But you get down there and trying to switch Equinox, take the cars that are there out, put the cars in, and have to leave everything in town, it gets to be a real challenge. And if it's not, I mean, you can block your train going to Equinox. It would really help out. Makes it a lot easier. I haven't taught any of these guys how to do that. I won't do it. I don't want it to be that easy. So, but I practiced with it and I learned how to do it. So.
Now these cards, how you doing, Steve?
Hi.
I didn't think I was going to be able to get on a show tonight. We had a massive storm come through here and shut everything off. Those cards that you got, where can a person get them at?
Micromart.
Micromart has them? Okay.
Yeah, they're, as a matter of fact, there's the latest catalog right there.
Cool.
And let's see, they would be back in the railroad section. They're handy to have. You get the car cards, You get a locomotive card. You get a it's a little pink slip like a repair card, and you get the way bills. Plus, you get you buy the boxes. You got 3 slots in every box. I've got 1, 2, 3. I got 4 of those on the layout. Here they are right here. This catalog, if any of you guys have that catalog, it's on page 66. Right there it is.
Excellent.
And I highly recommend them. Like I said, I tried JMRI. I really was hoping that that would work. But because I use the same track for my interchange, and I have a very short yard there that only holds about 12 cars, the program could never figure out that I'm using the same track. I could never get that worked out. So consequently, I would end up with up to 30 cars sitting in Summit Yard, and they'd be stacked all over that area. I would look and run a train to Equinox, and the silly thing would assign an engine and a caboose, no cars to take, no cars to pick up. So I gave up on JMRI. I use JMRI for my programming, my engines, but not for my switching. And my layout won't work on it. I do have a friend of mine, it works great on his, but his is a bigger layout. So the car cards are versatile because, like I was saying, if you get where I see that I'm having, let's say I've got 4 cars all of a sudden going to in-cart printing, I can only get 2 cars in there. So I just take 2 of them and I switch it and I go to the next spot and that car goes someplace else. I don't get jammed up that way. It works out real good. I see somebody asked how big my layout is. It's about 12'9" in the back room, and then it comes down the wall 18 foot where the branch line is going to Equinox.
Nice size layout. N scale or HO?
No, it's HO.
I just went from HO to N scale. I had an 18 by 18 layout in my garage. Horseshoe with 2 9-foot or 8-foot peninsulas in it, and it was hard to control the climate in that garage.
Oh yeah.
When it would rain, the moisture in the concrete, so my wife told me just put it back in the original room. Well, now it's 12.6 wide, and it's 36 feet long.
Oh heck, you had plenty of room for HO then.
Yeah, but I want to go N scale because I'm gonna do different towns on the layout. I live in West Virginia, so it'll be like West Virginia, Ohio, that area, Kentucky. That was those cards that you were showing. I like the idea because that gives you a visual on where that car has to go, where that engine has to go, what has to be picked up. You literally have to work it instead of just running them.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to run a train, if you're going to run a railroad, what's the point of running a train and just dropping cars off wherever you want to? That's convenience. Okay, you might have a car and say, "Whoa, it's on the front here, right behind the engine. I'll go ahead and just drop it here, and then I'll pick this one up." And then, I mean, you're just moving cars. But if a railroad really, if you think about your model railroad, it's supposed to be based on a real live, real live situation. You got to make money with it. So technically what you want to do is you want your cars to represent where they're supposed to go, and it's more realistic that way. No matter how big your layout is, even, like I said, even if you have a small 4x8 layout and just a couple industries, you should still make it look like, hey, these cars have a purpose. They can't just go anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I wrote myself a little database program for my small modular layout. My layout's basically two 6-foot modules that clip together. What it does, you set it up by putting in the locations, like you might have ADM machining. It has 2 spots there. A transfer yard has 2 spots. You enter in your location. Then you enter in the types of cars that can are normally delivered to those spots, right? And then you tell it to randomly generate. Now you say I want to randomly generate 5 sessions. It automatically goes and generates 5 random sessions. And might say, deliver an empty tank car to this spot, or deliver a boxed car to that spot, pick up an empty from there. It automatically does all that for you. And then you get the appropriate cards to go with it, stick them in their little envelopes and give them to the engineer.
Right.
It works fine. Totally random.
Yeah, the car cards are. I mean, you have destinations on the manifest here that tells you where the car is going to go. Okay, as you're making up a train, okay, like this one is going to Equinox, so all the cars up to whatever the train can handle, you would gather them together. So you give the engineer a packet of cards, he'll have an engine card, and then he takes off and he's looking through there. Now he's not only the engineer and the switchman, because you got to operate all the switches by hand on the layout here. You got to watch your switches. Now he's also the conductor. So when he gets into where he's going, he's got to look through those cards and go, okay, now wait a minute. I've got to stop up here. This car's going here, and I've got, you look in the box for the pickup, because my boxes are set up for drop-off, hold, and pickup. So when he gets into that town, he's got to go through those pickup cards, look and see what he's got to pick up that's going in the direction that he's going to be headed. He's got to pick those up, make arrangements. Where's he going to put those in the train compared to the rest of the cars? And then he's got to drop off whatever he's supposed to drop off. So it makes the engineer think. You know, he's not out there just, oh, here's a stop, I'll drop off a car. I go to the next stop, drop off a car. You got to really think about in your head what you're doing.
Yeah, last video about multiple program.
Realistic. I'm sorry.
Multiple program randomly generates that. So, I'd say pick up such and such a car from the interchange. It's got to be dropped off at such and such a point. And you've also got to pick up an empty car from such a place and take it back to this sort of place. It does it automatically at the start of an operation. So the engineer and the conductor know. They get their little print of what's got to be done, and they go ahead and do it.
Yeah, you'll look through your car cards before you leave the yard, and that makes it so that you know, at least he knows what he's got. He makes sure he's got the right cars on his train. He pulls out, and then he knows where his first stop is. And then after that, then he looks at them again and makes sure, okay, because it's real easy on this layout. The guys who run Equinox, if they're new at it, they will inevitably run right past Acme Mining's and Supply, because they don't think that's on their route, but they go by it, and all of a sudden they get down to Equinox and they go, hey, I got a car here. What do I do with it? I say, yeah, nice going. Now, you could back all the way up the line and drop it off, but I won't let them. I say, okay, you missed your spot. Take it back to Jackman with you. And that's how I use those cards. That's really, like I said, I've done the cards now for about 4 years. I really like them.
Just not to interrupt you, Steve, but many of the guys out here on the layout on this show tonight may not know, but Steve Montgomery is featured in the July issue. I know you're too modest to say it, Steve, so I'll say it for you. He's featured in the July issue of Model Railroad magazine, and this is his layout and his diagram. So if you have a copy of it, you can follow along with Steve in regards to his operation and read about what he's done.
Cool.
There's a question here. It says, how would you recommend doing some of the location running while you were getting industries and scenic work done? Trying to make it all realistic from just a starting point. The way I did is I was building my layout. I was running I got the main line in, and I knew pretty much where my sidings were going. before before the building was there, hey, I'd do like a mock-up. Put a box there, shoe box, cardboard, put anything, put a name on it. And that is the location that you're going to take a car to. That's your industry. See if it works out while you're running. It gives you an advanced way. Instead of just going in and laying switches and putting industries, think about what you want to do. Like, okay, for you guys that have the magazine, if you'll notice, Acme Mining Supply is on the branch line going to Equinox. Okay? Beavis Coal, which is a customer of Acme Mining, it's not on that branch line. It's on a separate line, ties in at Beavis. But for intents and purposes, when you're operating the mine, that branch line does not exist. Okay? So if you pick up a car at Acme Mining, you have to take it on into Equinox, get all the rest of the cars switched around. You bring that back up to Jackman into the yard. From there, it will either go on the local or to the coal extra, and then it'll run down to the coal mine. Okay? So what I did was, when I was trying to figure this out, I said, what would make an operational situation that would be interesting? And so I ended up putting the coal mine on one track. Here's Acme Mining over here, but you can't take them directly to each other. Okay? Adds more operation to it. Did that answer anything?
So now with that, I would assume that on that specific car card, being that the card be coming from the coal company, instead of going straight to Beavis on that car card, it would probably show on there that it's going to head down to Jackman to the yard then, correct?
No, it'll say Beavis Coal, okay? But the Equinox train does not go by Beavis Coal, so it has to go back up to Jackman. That's where my operators have to know, in advance what train they're on and what they're picking up. You cannot just pick up a car. Say you pick up a car at the hay barn and it's going to Del Barton. Well, if you notice on the drawing, you pick up the hay barn and you're headed uphill towards Del Barton. Well, you could do a runaround and drop it off there at Majestic, but I don't do that. You pick it up the hay barn. If it's going to Majestic Feed and Seat, it still has to come into the yard. Everything has to come back to the yard and be sent back out again on the right train.
Okay, so then when your yard operator actually has to sit down and look at all them car cards that are sitting inside the yard and make up the trains accordingly.
Exactly. And that's why the yard at this point is starting to get to be, we've noticed that we're coming real close to almost having to have two people run that yard, believe it or not. I mean, for this size of a layout, I never thought that would happen. It's either go with two people or I'm going to have to take some of the cars off the layout because it does get pretty hectic up there. Plus, he's also running the town. He's got to watch for the interchange trains coming in. He's got to switch the town. He's got to make up the local. He's got to decide, and he has to know how many cars are coming out of Coder. Will it fit on the local? Is that going to overload the local? If so, he has to run an engine light to Coder, or he'll take Coder cars with him and let that engineer, he's going to have to switch out and come back. Same thing like with the coal mine. So what we thought we were going to have just, maybe 5-6 trains running a night, we're up to 10, up to possible 10 trains now on this thing. There's a lot of operation in this. There's more than, actually, to be honest with y'all, there's more operation that we're finding on this layout now than what I even thought of when I started it. It's really getting to be a lot of fun, actually.
Andrew Gilmore asks, he cannot get the magazine, but do you have the track plan on the internet anywhere?
It's at the Model Railroad website, Model Railroad Magazine website. I don't know if I... let me look for something here for just a minute, okay? Let me see if I've got a picture of it anywhere. I might. Let me see. Bear with me, gentlemen.
Yeah, I'm not panicking over it. I'm just sort of.
Oh, here it is. Here it is. Hang on. Here we go. I can bring it up if I remember how to do this. Troy, you may have to. Nope, that's not it. Daggone it. Come on. I know mine's in here someplace. Where is that rascal?
Okay, well, Steve's looking for this right here really quick. We're going to take a quick little intermission. I'd like to thank everybody who's watching and stuff on here, and just a little reminder to all the viewers to keep checking YouTube Model Builders website at youtubemodelbuilders.com for all the latest news and schedule on the info for the live show hosted by Big Bill Graham, which is once a month. The eMag, which is a bi-monthly, and viewers can sign up for a subscription link to be emailed to you. Plus, the eMag is always looking for model railroaders to send in articles and pictures to be published. Don't forget about the new improved presentations with Gino, Barry, and Mike MRR Tech shows, newly added, and the normal moderated presentations with Dude and I. Plus, don't forget about the Thursday night general hangouts with Johnny Reb of Southeast Rails. Hope you guys all enjoy the presentation tonight. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to go and ask Steve about it. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to go ahead and answer, so go ahead and speak on up.
Can you see the layout there?
Yes.
Okay, that's a rough drawing of it. Sorry about that. It's much better in the magazine, but anyway, that is Equinox. I wish I had a better one. Daggone. I don't know if they've got...
You know, Steve, I might be able to go ahead and bring up the one on the Model Railroader magazine here.
Yeah, if you could do that, I'm afraid of...
I'll see if I can. I'll see if I can find it.
Okay. If you go to their magazine, do a search for Carroll Valley Railroad, and
track plan database.
Yeah, you'll find it that way. It'll be a lot better, I think.
Now that sketch is quite nice.
It's rough. It would be better if it showed the different buildings and everything. If Troy can find the one that they have, it'll be a lot better.
Yeah, I got it here now. I just have to.
Okay, let me
just get everything all kind of set up here.
Screen sharing. Okay. There we go. Okay.
Yeah, it just makes it easy for me to follow along because I can't get that magazine in Australia.
Right click.
You can get it, but they won't order it in for me.
Okay. There's, well, he's bringing that up, if that helps any right there. And you can see Equinox is down here. That's the switching challenge down there.
That's the one you're saying that they think about all the time.
I'm sorry?
You're saying that's the one they think about all the time.
Oh, yeah. People complain about it. Just, you know. But it's fun. That's Equinox right there. He'll get it up online here in a minute, and you know, probably be able to play something out. Whoops. Any other questions? I guess I'm still on here, aren't I?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
I hope that helps any. I'm putting a camera on the magazine.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Here is the Carroll Valley.
Oh, good.
There it is. Yeah, I see you got it there. Okay.
That's a sweet layout.
Thank you. The Equinox. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to point out the interchanges of what he was talking about. This one over here is the Couture interchange. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Steve.
Coder.
Coder.
Yeah, up there at the top.
This track right here is the Salt Fork.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And then the other one is actually down over here for the Thurmond Hopkinsville New River,
Right.
correct?
Yes,
Those
that's
would be
over top of my workbench.
for your 3 different interchanges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when you're done with an operating session, are all the cars off the layout and onto the interchange, or is it maybe like 50% on interchange, 50% on the layout, or what's kind of the ratio there on that?
Well, the Thurman and Hopkinsville interchanges, those tracks hold 6 cars each, so there's 12 that would be sitting there if they have a full train. You can put 6 up at Coder, and then you can put 2 at Salt Fork. Okay, so if you had them full, you would have 20 cars out of 60. So that's what 1/3 of the cars would be off the layout. You can have up to at the end of the operating session, Jackman is normally full. You've got the yard is full. Usually the track off the main line that cuts off going to in-cart printing, that'll have about 5-6 cars, about 5 cars on it there. And then the tail track, which is, if you see where the turntable is and count down to the second track on the curve, you got like 3 tracks right there in a curve. The first track is a dead end. Second one goes to South Jackman down there to where the team track is. That is a staging track that'll hold. Usually we put the Equinox train on there, so there'll be 6 to 7, sometimes maybe 8 cars on it if something's going to Acme Mining, but there will be 8 cars sitting in there. Then the rest of the cars will be scattered around at the different industries.
Okay.
So you have a mix. Like I said, there's cars off the layout, on the layout. I'm trying to constantly keep it fresh, so there's new cars coming in.
Now with your locomotives, when you are your locomotives designed to run specific trains in different runs, or
Yeah.
can they run whatever?
Yeah. Normally the RS1, which is leased from the Pennsylvania. Let me explain for the guys that don't have the magazine. This layout, we don't own any engines. The only one we have is a shade that's sitting abandoned in or rusting away over in the off the turntable there. All the engines are leased that we have on the layout. Long story behind that. So the RS1, which is leased from the Pennsylvania, that normally does the Equinox turn. Number 38, the 2662X Sierra, that'll normally run the coal train. Either one of the 210 or the 280 will run the Valley. The 2662 tank engine, that normally runs Coder. But it all depends, too, on how many cars, because even though these engines, they look great, a couple of them don't pull worth a hoot, And my 280, the Bachmann, it runs the passenger train. I'm thinking about putting another passenger train on this. I'm out of my mind. I don't know why. I just want to do it to aggravate the guys down at Equinox, that's all. But we have a full stable of engines. Let me see if I can find... here, let me see something here once. Might be able to find... Let's see. Let's see where we got it.
So basically, when a guy's designing a layout for operation, he should have a lot of this stuff thought up of ahead of time.
Well, the more planning you do ahead of time, the better off you really are. Yeah. Not sure that engine, that really doesn't show it there. That's, wait a minute. Trying to find out. Yeah, I made several mistakes when I was doing this. Like, I had the tracks underneath Jackman, the loop and a cutoff track, but the 3 tracks for the outside staging off the layout, I had to go in and put that in later. And that was putting switches in about 3 3/4 inch of space. I'm using mirrors and lights up in there. I couldn't even hardly see it. And it was a real fun deal. Here's let's see here. See if this comes up. Well, where'd it go? Come on. There's a picture of the engine facilities there of my engines. And that's the Shay over on the right side that's rusting away.
So all those engines, each one has their own service that they'll run for their trains then, correct?
Pretty much, yeah. Unless you have the, unless you've got too many cars, and like I said, now that, let's see, where is it, 38, one over to the left, 17, or number 9, it doesn't have the pulling power, so you have to be careful what you put on it. So there's times you may have to switch engines out because the heavier ones are to the right.
It's a nice looking setup right there, brother.
Thank you. Anyway, so yeah, we try to run the same engines on the same route, but it doesn't always happen that way. You know, it all depends. Like I said, it depends on, and you mix it up a little bit because my cars are not all weighted the same. Now, most of them are up to NMRA standards. I have a handful of them that are lighter, and I have a handful of them that are heavier. And you get, if you get a train with, say, 3 cars that are heavy, it changes the whole dynamics of it, trying to go up that hill. What you might take up that hill at one time with the lighter cars, no problem. You don't think anything about it. All of a sudden, now you got a heavier train, and now you get stuck on the hill. Then you have to come out. We got to figure out what to do. And again, that's the guy who runs the yard. He's responsible for that.
Okay, on your layout, do you have a continuous running train?
Yeah. Yeah, we have that capability with the cutoff there at Beavis Crossing, and it comes in underneath the layout into the hidden loop. If you're looking at, do you have the picture of the layout in front of you?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. If you, let's say, see Beavis Crossing there on the left-hand side?
Yeah.
Okay, follow that going up, and then it shows a bridge right there. That is not a bridge, gentlemen. That is a crossing. In hindsight, it would have been a lot easier with the bridge. I wouldn't have had the grade, but there is a crossing there. So once you get to that crossing, you go down grade, follow it down past the hay barn, and then you come to Dugan Gap. Go to the left side of Dugan Gap, basically go straight, follow that on around A, and take that down underneath the hidden track, where it's down there under staging, go to C. C comes in there at cutoff where the number 3 is, and that brings you around again. So what I have on the layout is I got point to point running like from Jackman to Equinox. I have out and back, that would be Jackman running the valley through the loop and back again. And then I also have a continuous run on this layout, half of which is pretty much hidden.
Because that's what, because I'm going to have an operational layout, but I'm going to throw a wrench into the setup, is I'm going to have a continuous running passenger train that you have to, passenger train has priority over everything, so if you're running the yard and it comes through or through the town or wherever you may be, you're going to have to find that cutoff line to let this passenger train through.
Right. And that's a good operational problem to have if your line is long enough to give your crew time to do switching. Now, on mine, I can throw a train out there, and I've done it before, but I have to run it real slow. Otherwise, it's right on top of you again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Right. So now what happens is, to say the local is working down there in the valley, down by the hay barn, at North Junction or Empire, and you got another train coming through. There's times he'll have to push that train onto a siding in order to let you by, because there is no place to get around. I've only got 3 passing sidings on the whole layout. The biggest one is underneath, and it shows on staging there. There's a short one at Del Barton, and then the short one over there at Equinox. Other than that, it's all basically main line, just single line running.
Yeah, if you definitely put a continuous train in there, it would be a lot of headaches.
Yeah. Plus, it's just something else they have to watch.
Exactly.
Well, the good thing is, when you send a train out of Jackman to Equinox, the passenger train that's sitting in Equinox at the beginning of the operating session has to go to Jackman. Well, of course, it has to stop there at Beavis Crossing at the whistle stop. Then it runs around. It'll go to Empire, come upgrade, stops at Del Barton. And usually what we try to do is have a meet at Del Barton, because the passenger train, being just the engine and 2 cars, once he drops off passengers, or what we like to do is, slow down and throw them off for our long-suffering customer. He pulls straight ahead like he's going towards the Coder Interchange, and he clears that. The freight train can go on by, and he can go through the switch and come into Jackman down to the station. At that point, he drops the cars. He backs around it. They don't show right there in front of the station in Jackman. There should be a switch right there. It's right about at the beginning of the station, and it'll come over to the main line. And what that is, I have an engine escape right there. There's just enough room. It's about 90 scale feet, big enough for my largest engine. He can pull down there, drop the train, and he can back around it then. So the passenger train will come in, drop the cars there kind of before the water tower. He'll pull forward and back out of the way. The switcher will come and push the cars on in into the station. Now, another way you could have built this is you could have come down the main line there where I have the Jackman in front of the station, and then the lift off, or the lift up, would have been hooked up to the top level, and then you could have run around that way. But it would have made it a lot shorter of a run. So if you follow that, that would have just been a simple, pretty way of doing it there. But I went to the bottom, and Jackman is dead end. So it gives me more of the point-to-point between Equinox and Jackman.
Now, what system are you using to run your trains?
I use a lens system. I have 1, 2, 3. I got 5 controllers on it.
And how many people actually run your layout during an operating session?
Usually 3 or 4 of us. Usually you have one guy who run Equinox, one guy runs the yard, another guy can run the locals, and then if I do have a 4th guy, he can help with I usually put them on the Thurman and the Hopkinsville, and then when the local is done, he can switch over and run the coal mine. We can get too crowded. 4 is a good number of operators. 2, if we only have 2 of us, we cut back on everything. Usually the Equinox train will run probably one of the interchange trains, maybe the coal train, the local, something like that. A full night, if we have a full crew, we'll run up to 10 trains in a night on that layout.
That's a nice run.
It's not,
Takes
yeah.
what, probably an hour or 2 to go ahead and run your operating session?
Oh no, we start about 7:30. We go to midnight. Yeah. So yeah, we're down there, and all of a sudden we look up, and what the heck time is it? It goes fast. But being single track, you can't just run trains constantly. You know, you gotta. Usually the guys will make a mistake or something, and you know you got to go back and correct that, and they'll block the track. There's times you get backed up coming into Jackman if Equinox gets done too quick. In fact, the guy who normally runs Equinox, Jerry Strangarity, he's getting pretty good at it. So I am considering throwing a passenger train back down there in the middle of everything. I'll teach him a lesson. I'm going to fix him.
So
He's getting kind of cocky.
I apologize if this was answered earlier, but I didn't get on here till later. But do you use any type of track authority, like track warrants or anything like that, or you just do everything visually?
Pretty much, if the train is ready to go and nobody's coming towards you, you're allowed to go.
Okay.
Yeah,
There's no formal system of track control.
No. It's a lot of it depends on what cars are available. If you don't have enough cars to really run the Valley Local, you wait until the interchange trains come in, and then you do your switching. Maybe you got to get cars out of Jackman first and build that train. So maybe you might shoot the coal train, the coal extra out, or the coder train out. You know, it's kind of depends on what you have available. I don't run on any kind of a time schedule. The only two trains that have any kind of a schedule at all is the passenger train from Equinox and the Equinox train from Jackman. They meet at Del Barton. After that, it's a free-for-all. And pretty much whatever goes. So no two operating sessions are ever alike. You never know what's coming down the pike at you.
Well, that's good. You don't want them to be alike.
Right. I like mixing it up.
That makes it more interesting. Makes you work your track. Keeps your eyes open.
Right. Yep. Because sure enough, if the Equinox guy gets done, now the last guy who ran Equinox, and it wasn't a gentleman who I mentioned earlier, there's another guy, he came over and he was there for 4 hours trying to switch Equinox. And I finally had to walk over. What are you doing? He goes, well, I got my first car spotted. That was 2 hours in. But the secret to Equinox is when you look at the drawing, yeah, you got a little passing siding there, but that only holds 4 cars. Well, you're taking the cars out of the industry, so you're having to put cars in. So every time you run around that Y track, you're going to have to move those cars and push them onto the Y to get around, make a maneuver, come back, pull them out of the way, get them out, and then go back down again. You're constantly having to run around that Y. You'll run around that Y probably 30 times a night. Okay? And that's what makes it a challenge down there.
Now, these gentlemen that come over and help you run your layout, do they have their own?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, they have, Jerry's got the Reading. He's got a real nice basement layout, the Reading. John, he's got the B&O, basically kind of like the west end of the B&O. Lee is in process of building his layout. He's building a small one in the basement, more of a mountain railroad, kind of logging, coal mining. He's getting started on that. And most of the guys that come over have some sort of a layout right now.
So do you go over to their places then? On different...
we have a round robin, yeah.
So you may only be on your layout like one weekend a month or one night a month?
Pretty much, yeah. Usually it's a Friday night. I try to do it at the beginning of the month. John has his at the end. Jerry usually has his sometime towards the middle. So, yeah, we all travel around and run each other's railroad. And we get ideas from each other. And, you know, since what I've done to them at Equinox, when I go to theirs now, they always set something up that's a challenge for me.
Payback.
Yeah, I love it.
That's always nice, though, when you got other guys go ahead and come on in and help out with different ideas and everything else, too, as well.
Yeah, they've been a great help. So we bounce ideas off each other all the time.
I know my buddy that's he's got a layout in his house. It's 2 rooms, and he's HO.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me, he says, when we come down and run trains on yours, he says, do I get magnifying glasses?
Yeah, I've got a friend of mine that's got a basement layout and gauge. And, I mean, and gauge is great. You can get a lot of stuff in it, but my eyesight isn't good enough. In fact, now I'm using, I got to use those track re-railer things to put my cars on at times because my eyesight is not that great anymore either. I almost wish I could go ON3 or S gauge, but too late to do that.
There's always G scale.
Yeah, but I'd have a yard and a track, and that was it. And I wouldn't go anywhere.
So, being around Robin, you guys all have different ways of moving your cars, like car cards and waybills or JMRI, or do you all do it the same?
No, Jerry uses car cards. John he doesn't. He just sends them out, and you're kind of. I pretty much just run a cold train on his, so I know that when I have the cars, I got to deliver so many. He says, you know, he's got a list, and he says, okay, you got to deliver so many here, so many there, and I'll be picking up any loaded ones and coming back. So he doesn't get into the car cards. I keep telling him he should, but his layout is pretty big, and I don't think he wants to get into that right now.
Does anybody use the JMRI operations?
Yeah, a friend of mine does. He's got the N scale. Let's see, Mike over in Westchester, he does JMRI on his. It seems to work out pretty good. But he's got big yards and staging tracks and all that. It's set up for that. So he's having pretty good luck on that.
So do you have a preference, car cards or switch list?
For me?
Yeah.
Okay. I have to use the car cards because when I tried JMRI, because of the size of my layout, the length of my tracks, the program just could not, I couldn't get the program to understand because usually what it wants to do, it works real good if you have 2 tracks or more. You run a train out, you can bring a train in on another track. It understands that. But what I was trying to do was take a train out on track A and bring a train back in on track A. At the time I was using it, they hadn't worked the bugs out. Now they may have now, but what I ended up with JMRI was that it would overload Summit Yard. You know, I mean, if you look at the drawing, figure out where you put 30 cars at in there. And then it would have nothing going to Equinox and back. You know, just send an engine and a caboose out and come back again. I'm thinking, well, that's crazy. The car cards give me, on this layout, a lot more versatility. I can change them if I have to.
So when you're just operating, though, regardless of whose layout it is, do you prefer using car cards, or would you rather use a switch list like from JMRI or one of the other programs?
Be honest with you, I like the car cards because you got them in your hand and you're looking right at it. I've run the switch list over there on that one layout on Frank's, and I have missed switching assignments because it's the way it's set up. It can be a little confusing. And if I don't know exactly where all the buildings are, then I end up and I get to where I'm going, I've got a car I shouldn't have because I was supposed to drop it off or I didn't pick one up, you know. So I find that the car cards in my hand, to me personally, they work a lot easier. I like them.
Thanks.
And it's a lot less paperwork coming out of your printer, too.
Yep. The only thing I don't like about them is trying to find a place to work with them, you know, without setting them on a layout. I never like putting things on other people's layouts, setting them down, you know. That's the downfall of car cards is just the amount of room it takes to run with them, to lay them out and figure out your switching moves.
Well, I did I have little fold-up tables that I built onto the side of the fascia board. I can fold those up so the operators have like a small desk. We have one at Equinox, one over at Beavis Crossing, and there's a large one over there at Jackman. Oh, nothing. Yeah, if you have the magazine on page 30, there's a picture looking into it, and right in front of me, you'll see one of my small tables right here. I can see both of them, actually. The one on the left at Del Barton, it just folds up. It's a flat table. The one over to the right behind me at Jackman, I actually put strips of wood on there so I can hold 2 rows of cards without them slipping off.
Okay.
That's a pretty good idea right there.
Mm-hmm. Some of the guys, they make them so that they will, you know, like a drawer almost, where it'll be a flat table and you can pull it out from the fascia board, and it'll come straight out. You have like a table. The way I built mine, I've got too much under there. I couldn't do that, so I had to come up with an idea of making some kind of a table, desk type thing, up on top there. And that works good because they fold down out of the way. They're not the greatest looking, but then I don't really want the attention on anything except the layout itself. That's where everything is black.
I've seen that drawer system before. One guy has a table for his car cards, and one at the interchange where they can lift cards off on the table or they put other ones on. But his control panel also slides out locked. So when he's not doing anything, he just slides everything back under his layout.
Mm-hmm.
His layout, I think, is only about 18 inches wide all around the room. And it worked perfectly for him. It's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, anything you can do to help your operators, you know. Even a switch list. If you have a switch list, you still need somewhere to write, you know, make the marks that you picked up the car, you dropped the car, whatever notation. So you're going to have a clipboard, okay? You can have hooks on the front of your layout. You can hang your clipboard on there while you're doing your switching, mark off what cars you have, you know, the move that you made, and then take your clipboard with you to the next stop. You can do that too. And there's several different ways of doing it. The whole idea is just being creative and thinking outside the boxes. Okay, what is going to work best in my situation? And that's what I did. I used to use the clipboards. I had that when I was trying to JMRI. And I come up, like I said, I went with the car cards, and they work real good for me. I'm real happy with them because of the versatility. I can switch anything I need to. I can't do it when I print out all that stuff in JMRI. I'm pretty much stuck.
Well, gentlemen, I hate to call it an evening, but I've got lightning bouncing around me real bad. I appreciate the information, Steve. What I did get, nice layout. Troy, I appreciate you. You all have a fine evening, but I'm going to back out.
Thanks, Scott. Have a good evening.
Okay, Scott. Good night.
Steve.
Yeah.
Kind of getting back to the basics of the car card system. After you got your car cards labeled off, like, you know, that it's a box car, road number, such and such, did you take the cars and actually place the cars at the industries accordingly and said, okay, well, then this one would go to here, or did you just sit down and just start marking them off? I mean, what was easier to say, okay, this one will go here, that one will go there?
Okay, what I did, I took about half the cars for the industries. I took about half my industries and I put a car in front of it, a car that would go there. And then I wrote down on, you know, on the manifest or the bill, the way bill, stop number 1, I wrote down that industry. Then I thought, okay, where would this car go? Where do I want it to go? If it's a Carroll Valley car, I want to try to keep it on the layout, trying to bounce it back and forth, either to the yard is empty or to another local industry. I wouldn't go from, say, in-cart printing to, you know, McGraw Oil. You wouldn't do that. So I had to think, okay, where do I want this car to go? And do I want it, I want to incorporate going off the layout, on the layout, off again, on. So basically I have an on, off, on, off. You put the car at Menasha, and I thought, okay, where do I want it to go? If I have a location on the layout, I could send it there. Menasha could go to in-cart printing, you know, something like that. But I kind of like them going off the layout. So then I would mark where they would go, and I moved them around off the layout. Okay, then I put another group of cars on in the industries, set them up the same way, mark them where they were going to go. It's a little time consuming to get it started, but once you get it there, then you can add cars. When you add cars, you can look at it and go, okay, where do I not have a car this time? Okay, I can throw a car there to, you know, to start it on its route at that point. Does that answer your question?
Pretty much.
I've also taken big, you know, yellow legal tablets, wrote down all my industries, and then I start checking them off as, okay, I want a car here, 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 here. And that works, but if somebody misses a car or you don't run one of the trains and a train gets bypassed, say we don't run the Thurman train that night or something, and it throws everything off. See, if everything worked right, all cars would be on week number 1, you know, the first night, week number 2 or waybill 2 the second, 3, 4. It doesn't work that way. And then what I would find, like I said, is if I started getting too many cars going into an industry, I just start switching the waybills around. And that's the versatility of the car cards, that I can do that. I can change anything in midstream if I want to. With JMRI, you're pretty much locked into the switch list the way that they put it. Because if you try to just move a car anywhere you want to, then you got to go in and tell the computer before you save everything. Then you have to go in and make your changes on the computer in the program to tell the computer that, or the program that, hey, this car is not here, this car is really over here. Because if you don't and you save it and you print the next week's manifest, all of a sudden you got cars and you go, where are these cars at? They're not even where they're supposed to be, and it can get out of control real quick. But I'm not putting JMRI down. I think it's a phenomenal system what they've got. I just cannot get it to work on my layout. That's all. And I didn't want to go with written out switch lists because that's too much paperwork. And the waybill cards, the car cards, really make it real simple, real simple. And that's my middle name.
All right, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to screen share my layout. It's going to get kind of funky here for a second, so bear with me.
Okay.
All right, can you see my layout there?
Not yet. Oh, there it is. Wait a minute. Let's see. Well, I see it down there. Let's see.
Double click my little icon, my chiclet there. It should bring it up on your screen. Or click it once. Get the box to highlight with a white border around it. Or maybe you can just show you to presentate to everybody so you can see it.
It should be presenting.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got it.
I see it down at the bottom.
Just go ahead and click on that.
Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay, got it.
Okay. Now here in these gray buildings here is my oil depot for fuel oil, for people to pick up fuel oil.
Right.
So I've got a few tankers in here. Now, where would I send those tankers to? I've got a lumberyard here, a small dry grocer here. It's going to be a larger grocery warehouse, another kind of a warehouse, and that's basically all I've got for industries.
Okay.
So where would I take, if I wanted to send that tanker someplace, what, other than, I need to drop off oil over here for the yard for the diesels, but where else would I try to take a car like that?
Okay.
With what
This is a problem that I've seen on some people's layouts, is that basically what they're doing is it's a self-contained railroad. It don't go anywhere.
Right.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. Down here on the lower right-hand corner, you got a track running along the edge coming down, right?
Oh, right here.
Yeah. Where does that go?
Well, that was going to be going to the next city or town or whatever. I was thinking about putting a tunnel portal there or something, but that's why it's just kind of stuck there for right now because I hadn't decided what to do with it.
Okay. Make that your interchange track.
Okay.
Okay. Now, your cars, when you come out of the oil, you can bring them around, and if you shove them down there, you can do that like a fiddle yard. You can either take the cars off, replace them with other cars, or just leave them there until the next operating session when they come back on. A railroad, if you think about it, let's say we pick up a car in New York City and it is going out to San Francisco. It doesn't run on the same railroad all the way out there, right?
Correct.
Okay, it's going to go so far, then it's going to be interchanged to another railroad that's going to take it, well, at that point, probably the Union Pacific, and take it on out there, okay? Same thing we have to think about on our railroads is, okay, where is the freight coming from? Where's it going to? You need to take them on and off the layout for realism. Even if it's just a track down, like I said, even if it's just a track that right down there on that corner, that would be a good interchange track. Okay, you could interchange with whatever railroad you want it to be out there. Okay, any place that you can stick a track in, you could put like a small hill in there just to kind of hide it a little bit. You can come off the other end too, and if you have room, put a track down there, and then that way you're running cars on and off the layout, which means you're receiving cars from another layout, you're taking them across your layout, and maybe going off layout. You can be using your layout as a bridge line along with it being a regular service railroad that's taking care of your customers. In real life, cars don't stay on the same railroad all the time.
Gotcha.
See what I'm saying?
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah.
That means I've got to just rip all this up and start over again.
No.
Well,
No.
I think it out as well. Now that I'm seeing yours and I'm understanding operations better, I can see how this is kind of not as prime as it really could be if I worked with it more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about putting a helix on and putting a second level so that I got someplace else to go.
Right.
So that gives me a better understanding of what I need to look at then, I guess.
Okay, if you're going to have a second level, put an interchange up on top. You got one on the bottom. All right?
Okay.
Cars are coming in off of one. They're coming down. Some of them, the cars will be going to industries on your layout. Maybe a couple of them might be going, using your layout as a bridge and going out the other interchange.
Gotcha.
And you've got more operational possibility right there.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, on my small layout, I've got it set up so a car leaves, say, like in Jim's case there, the oil industry, goes through a double-folded dog bone a couple of times and comes back as empties. So in this process going around the layout a few times, it's gone through its interchange, gone to be emptied, and it's come back, and they come back to empties. That works for me.
Mm-hmm.
If you understand what I mean.
Yeah. Well, it's like with the coal train. When it leaves New River, it has to back out. All those trains back out. It comes out of staging, backs out onto the outer loop underneath. Now, he can run that around the loop as many times as he wants to. But then when he's tired of running around the loop, he pulls into Beavis Crossing, he does the switching. So you can make the run as long as you want, but you still are bringing cars in and off the layout. Like I said, even if you have a 4x8 layout, put an interchange on it and take those cars on and off your layout. It's much more realistic instead of looking at the same cars all the time. And it's what is it? It's a section of track and one turnout, you know what I mean? But it adds all kinds of operational possibilities to your layout.
Yeah. Just to give you an idea of my layout is basically a folded dog bone.
Mm-hmm.
So I can have continuous running, because I like to just watch sometimes have a nice little train running around. But I've also got a lot of switching to do as well. So they come in off the folded dog bone into a little industrial estate, do all their switching. When they're finished, then they go back on the dog bone and go around a couple of times until they're either methodic.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Either unloaded or loaded, and they come back into the industrial estate and switch around. That works. But I have got room for an interchange, so I think that's what I might do too.
Yeah, because if you have, say you have a track back by your backdrop, okay, run a switch or turnout, run a track back along your backdrop, and then come out a little bit and build yourself a small hill, even, you know, maybe even a 3 or 4 inch tall hill just to hide the cars. The people are going to see this track taking off behind the hill. They don't know where it's going to go. All it is a dead end. You're using it as an interchange track. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's all just visual. It gives the impression that, hey, that track goes someplace. Your railroad it should be connected to the outside world for more realism. Even if you only have one interchange track, that's fine, you know. Cass up in West Virginia, it came off of the C&O. So it was the only interchange point it had, but it was a full logging railroad. But it still had an interchange point that it was shipping its lumber out to the, to the outside world there. So,
if anyone interested, I just posted a link to my website where I've got the track plan. So,
okay.
But the industrial estate works for me, because that way I've got 2 options. I can either do just rail fanning, or I can go round and round, or I can actually do some serious switching, or both at the same time.
Right. But now, wouldn't it be kind of neat if you was to take, when you did your switching, you pull your cars out, take them around, put them on an interchange track, pick up new cars there, switch them out. Now you're coming in and you got, however many cars you can handle there. Now you got new cars coming on the layout. So instead of looking at the same cars every day, you're rotating your stock, basically. With an interchange, you can actually have more cars on your layout than what you can really handle, because they're not all on your layout at the same time.
Yeah. My problem is I live in a caravan, so when the storm season comes, I've got to fold my layout up and take it inside, because it's actually outside on the patio.
Uh-huh.
So everything's got to be able to lift it off and store it away.
Right.
So I'm limited to the amount of, mainly because of ease of convenience, that I can't put too much rolling stock on the layout, because at the end of the day, I've got to take it off and take it inside.
Right. Yeah.
Otherwise, they have a tendency to go walkabout.
Yeah. But still, you're talking about one turnout in a section in a length of track. That's all.
Yep.
It just, all I'm saying is, and I'm not saying it's for everybody, I'm just saying that I have found that it's more realistic. It's more prototypical that way.
So even if you don't have cars that have someplace to go, because you bought in that car because you like it or whatever, you can actually just go ahead and run that across and off and on to the interchange.
Right.
Correct?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at my track plan, why would I use reefers that were constantly on my layout? They got no place to go. Okay, I mean, what, between full pantry foods and valley foods, that would be it. I'd have one reefer. This way I have 4 reefers running. 3 of them are usually off the layout at one time. So I can have a different car going in there. And then sometimes I'll run a reefer from full pantry over to valley foods. But then after that, it goes off the layout again.
Yeah, I've tried to work mine out, so each an oil tanker will leave the refinery and it can go to one of 2 other destinations and vice versa.
Right.
So they just haven't got a fuel depot, for example, and nowhere for the fuel tanks to go.
Okay.
They all have. So they move from one part of the industrial estate to the other part of the industrial estate. The switches do all this switching around. Take a full, so they take a full one from the oil depot to the powerhouse, bring the empty one back. It works.
Right. But you're using the same car all the time, right?
Oh, 3 or 4 different cars. You might at the powerhouse they might have four tank cars there. 2 are empty and 2 are full. So you'll drop 2 more full ones off and take 2 empty ones back.
Okay. And they go back to a refinery.
Yeah.
Which is giving you good, reason for those cars. I mean, every car in your layout you should have a reason for, because you got to look at like, okay, if you want your layout to look realistic, would it be making money? Would it actually make money operating in the real world? If you have a refinery, where's the oil coming from to the refinery? I see that you're taking them from the refinery to the power plant and all, but how does the oil or how does the raw fuel get to the refinery? See what I'm saying? And with an interchange track, that gives you a little bit more operation. That's all. I'm not, again, it's not for everybody. It's just what I had to do it on this layout to give me more operational possibilities. That's all. That's the only thing.
I've got room there to put an interchange in. I might add one.
Yeah, I think Troy's going to. We had a long talk last night, and he's got this car, and he says, I got this H car, I really like it, but I got no place to go. And I said, well, take it off the layout. He goes, you mean lift it off? And I no, interchange it. So, because I run with the Thurman in the Hopkinsville, I have a Pennsylvania Railroad, and I got a B&O Railroad that comes in to this layout. So I'm actually interchanging with the Pennsylvania and the B&O. And Coder is going to the, what the heck is that? That's the East Branch of the South Potomac Railroad or something like that. I made up some silly name for it. But you never see an engine over there, They just drop cars off, that's all.
Yeah, I agree. I think the interchange is a very good thing to go ahead and do. I mean, especially you're able to run more rolling stock. You're able to switch it up a little bit. And like me, I mean, I got my ash pit, but I've got no place to dump off my ash cars. It's coming out of my servicing facility. So where else to put it but run it down there into the interchange.
I got some questions over here. They ask, where is the model railroad set geographically? It is generically in Appalachia. The only town that I have is Del Barton. There is a Del Barton, West Virginia. I'm kind of from West Virginia. My folks still live over there. I like the name Del Barton, so that's why I used it. It's Appalachia. That's all. It's not really, any certain area over there. That's why I picked that. Let's see what else we got here. Right. Yeah. If we can do an industry interchange on a 4x1 plank, the layout should be able to support ops with just a recasting of one track as interchange. And that's all you need. One track makes an interchange. Like I said, right here's the drawing. Okay. That's all you need. Main line here, a passing siding, and an interchange track. Hold whatever number of cars you want it to hold, however many you want to move. 2, 3, sky's the limit depending on how much room you have, how many cars you need to move. So, okay.
Multi-Music Man asked, does a passenger car still have the right of way over a freight train?
On my layout, yes, it does. We normally don't have that problem because we try to meet at Del Barton, The passenger train will, pull in the station. He has to actually move ahead, and the freight will come by. Then he can retake the main line to head for Jackman. But yeah, the passenger trains do have priority. Once I start running a passenger train down into Equinox during an operating session, just to teach those guys a lesson down there, it'll have priority too. So that's really going to drive them nuts.
I have a unique information from Australia. One of our passenger services is actually on a private mining line. The freight trains have priority over the passenger train. Because the line is actually owned by a mining company.
Okay, and in real life, a passenger train would have priority, but it kind of depends on what kind of operation you're doing too,
Yeah, but I'm saying this is a real
kind
life
of like whoever has the track owns the track, basically.
The track, this is actually a real situation. The track is actually owned by the mining company. The trains are sometimes 2 or 3 kilometres long. They have priority over the passenger train. The passenger train must be in the siding of the station by a certain time to allow the freight train to keep moving straight through.
You saying it? Will I move a freight train out of the way for a passenger train?
No, on this particular railroad, Western Australia, the passenger train must be in the side before the freight train arrives, so the freight train can keep going, because it has priority. The track and the system is actually owned by the mining company, and the government just leases the right to use that track, but the freight trains take priority. So it makes for an interesting situation.
If I'm understanding you correctly, and you're kind of breaking up there a little bit.
Is that any better?
Yeah, okay, I can hear you better now. Go ahead. Try that again.
Right. It's actually a real railway in Western Australia.
Okay.
The railroad is owned by the mining company, but the state government has the right to use that track for a passenger service. But the passenger service must be in the siding station of the siding, so that the freight train continues straight through, because the freight train has priority over the passenger train. Because of the ownership of the railway.
Right. Makes sense.
I've been stuck at a station for 2 hours waiting for the freight train to come along.
Oh, wow.
Because it's a signal track.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. It's because, again, look who owns the railroad, And really, passenger service, I don't think passenger service really ever made the railroads any money. That's why they got out of it as quick as they could.
I think that's happening all over the world.
Well, Europe still uses them. They're built on that. But America, as soon as after the war, I mean, we had passenger trains over here that were like hotels. Beautiful, beautiful. All the amenities in it. And with the advent of everybody owning an automobile and then airplanes, railroads dumped passenger service like a hot potato because they weren't making any money. Amtrak over here still runs, but every passenger is subsidized by the federal government. So we're all paying taxes to keep Amtrak running as a convenience basically for the people up in, the New York, New England area. I think it's $19 per ticket, I think, is what the government pays as a subsidy for Amtrak. I think it's 19 was the last time I heard. And on my railroad, my story is that we would stop passenger service at Empire if the 6 people who still live there would move, but they won't, and they won't let us shut it down, so we have to keep stopping there for some silly reason.
Yeah, a lot of our long-distance passenger trains, they only stop if you've got a prepaid ticket to get on and a prepaid ticket to get off. If you just turn up at the railway station to catch the train, it'll just go straight through.
Wow.
Because the driver has to know what station he has to stop off to pick up and drop off.
Okay.
And that's a luxury train too. And that train
Right.
is chock-a-block. They totally rebuilt it about 1999. Complete new carriage, everything from scratch. And it's like living in a first-class hotel.
Yeah, that's how they used to be here. But oh well.
And people pay big dollars to travel on it.
No, I bet. Yeah,
Like
we
you
were
can fly from one
looking
end of
at
the
taking
state to the other in 2 hours.
Yeah.
This train takes 2 days to get from one end to the other.
Wow.
But people, they still kept the train.
Yeah, we were looking at taking the Empire Builder out to Montana, and they're booked up a year in advance, and it's like $2,000 for private roomette. Yeah, we'll drive. Love to take the train, but I ain't gonna plan that far ahead. So, but that would be an interesting operational scenario on a layout. Is that the passenger train, instead of having the right of way, would have to wait for a freight train? That would be interesting. Like you could do that like on a branch line or something. That would be interesting.
Yeah, well, a lot of our long-distance railway lines are single track.
Mm-hmm.
And the railways does rely heavily on freight to make money.
Well, yeah, that's where the money really is, not passengers.
Yeah, see, that's where I was going to operate my branch line passenger service. I was going to have to go ahead and wait for the actual freight. So I'd actually have a branch line passenger, and then I would have a regular passenger train. Regular passenger train would have all rights to all mainline service, but the branch line would actually have to sit back and wait.
Right. Or you could put the passenger car at the end of the freight cars and let the engine have to service all the industries while the passengers sit and wait. Yeah, you could do that too.
That happens a lot in Queensland, where I am in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
They have maybe 1 or 2 cars at the end of the freight train, and he'll drop them off at the leave them sitting on the main line while he shunts a few cars you have to do, pick up a few more, then they hook up again, and away they go.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
That's the only way they can do it.
Yeah, that would be, again, that's anything that you can do on a layout to make it operational interesting makes it more fun to operate, basically. And that would be kind of fun. I think that'd be a neat idea. Make our passengers sit. They're long-suffering enough on the Carroll Valley. We don't treat our passengers too good here.
That's all very well, but in Queensland, we're in the tropics, and a lot of the dual services where they got freight and passenger, the carriers aren't air conditioned. When you got 102 degrees centigrade, Fahrenheit, I should say, and you're sitting there for 2 hours while they're doing some shunting, that's not comfortable.
Yeah, but we're running a model railroad. We can simulate that. We don't suffer from it,
Just crank up the thermostat.
There you go. Heck yeah. But anything, if you think outside the box to operate and come up with some, strange scenario, like we're not allowed to take an engine under Menasha Woodenware because we set the building on fire. So even though we might service it with the occasional diesel, we're still not allowed to go underneath the building. So you have to make sure you have enough cars that you can get in there and pick up the car. Say if you have a car at door 1 or you have a coal car at the very end of the track, you got to make sure you've got some cars that you can use to go in there and get them out again, or you have to leave them sit to the next train. Okay? Operational problem. It makes you think outside the box.
One of the unique situations here in Australia, in Brisbane, our state capital, 2 of the railway stations are actually underground. They're actually street level, but there's buildings over the top, and so they're underground. And they were running a steam excursion train from one end of the state to the other. Well, the train was told it wasn't allowed to stop at these 2 underground stations, it had to go straight through. And they cleared everyone from the platform beforehand, because the whole station got covered in smoke inside.
Well, that would be fun, yeah. I can see the passion. The people would be upset over that, but oh well. Hey, it's model railroad. Oh, that's railroading, you know.
I can remember being in England when they did the 105th anniversary of the tube, the underground, and they run one of the old steam trains through there. And it was the tube. By the time you got from one end of the run to the other, you were covered in smoke soot. It was unreal.
Be like riding up there at Cass. That I've done that, and if I go back again, I'm not wearing good clothes. I can guarantee it. I'm not dressing up to go over there.
We have a question here from Pro Flixler. I'm not sure that I pronounced that correctly. Sorry if I slaughtered it. Car cards versus switchless as relates to the modeled era, old time transition / contemporary. Which one is most appropriate?
Which one is most appropriate for the era that you're modeling? I don't think it has anything to do with it. I think it's whatever you're comfortable with doing. Okay? It's what works best for your particular layout and for you. A car card versus a switchless, both of them do the same thing. They route a card to a certain location. That's all. Whichever device you want to use to accomplish that is whichever works for you. I don't think an era really has anything to do with it, because you can use switchless or car cards modern day. You can do it in the old day. You know, I'm 1952. Car cards would work fine for modern era too. I don't think your era has anything to do with it. It's what works easiest for you. You know, you want a challenge in switching, but you don't want to make, how can I say this? What we're doing, we're modeling trains, okay? It's not a job. If you make it too difficult, it becomes a job, and we all know what we think about a job. You know, it doesn't have fun anymore. We want to have fun. That's the way I look at it. And even if you're running purely prototypical, you should still have fun doing it. It shouldn't be so difficult or in such a way that you're having to go through all this paperwork. I mean, some guys, they do have their layout set up that everything is just like the real railroad would have, but I don't want that kind of work. I don't want that. That's too much for me. You know, but to each his own, basically. It's whatever you're comfortable with. That's the best way I could answer that question, I believe.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've seen car cards on modern layouts too, just as well as, you know, layouts like yours and mine, and a few others that are on here as well, running, you know, the 50s. I don't think it really matters which one you do.
It really boils down to, I guess, how much work you want to do to set up an operating session. You know, some guys, they'll do a switch list and they write everything out by hand. And, you know, I've seen it in the magazine. And they have all the different paperwork that you would use. Some of these guys, they do it just realistic. The only thing I throw in on mine that's different is those little pink cards. And I may toss one in that says you got a hot box. You got to set the thing off at the nearest siding just to, you know, screw with people, that's all. But that's about it. I don't like a whole bunch of paperwork, sir. But
yeah, I think paperwork's no fun myself, but
no, we want to have fun running trains, you know. Make it as easy as possible. To me, I try to go with the KISS simple, or the KISS principle. You know, keep it simple, stupid. That's what I always tell myself. Just keep it simple, stupid. Don't go and try to, you know, make it harder than it has to be.
Hey, Troy.
yes, sir.
Just do like I do. Teach your dog how to write and let him take care of the paperwork.
That's just about as asking my kid to do something for me.
Yeah, but that's not going to work because all the cars are going to end up at Purina Chow.
Yep. Well, actually, they'd all end up inside of our belly, to be honest, but
Oh, well, yeah.
besides the point.
Anybody else got any questions?
I got a comment.
Does anybody else have
Okay.
any?
What's your comment?
I just want to say thanks for coming in. Enjoyed it. I was late getting here, but
Well, thank you all for having me. It's quite an honor.
yeah.
Never expected this. So.
Well, we'd kind of like to get you, and at least I would like to see you and Ron, maybe a few others, start kind of jumping in on a few hangouts here and there. You know, if you got time.
Yeah, we get back from California, I'll try to do a little bit more for you. Try to get in there. I find this very interesting. I enjoy bouncing ideas and hearing from people and their ideas, because I mean, what I've created here in my basement, it's my own little world, but that don't mean it's perfect by no means at all. And if I can improve it, I will. So always open to suggestions on this thing.
Multi-musician man says, thanks for all your help and explanations, Steve.
Oh, quite welcome. Glad I could be of help. I hope I said something right anyway. So.
Yet another nice Tuesday, and another time that I realize I've got to change my layout even further. Last time I realized I had to do a lot more work was making the track look more prototypical and realistic. Now I've got to do my operations. I guess I should have just not built anything and waited till I had a couple of years of hanging out around here to get me started so I knew what the heck I was doing.
Well,
no matter how much prep time you get, if you get very far into it, you'd want to change something. That's why I say you got to plan for it to change. You'll always change your mind about things, and I mean, I've built 10 layouts, and I've still already made changes to the one I'm building, pretty early in the process, and I've built enough layouts to know what I liked, and I still make changes.
Yeah, my father told me,
right, Andy.
Yeah, and my father told me, he goes, "You're never going to have it completed. You're always going to." And I said, "No, Dad, no, heck no. I've got what I like right now, and that's the way it's going to be." Yeah, okay, he was right.
I would say there's no such thing as complete. You'll do something and you'll like it, and 5 years later you'll move on, you'll have a bunch more done, and you'll want to come back and do it. You improve, you get better, you like other things, your interests change. Layouts always, even if it was at some level of semi-completion, there'll always be things you'll want to change or improve on.
Mm-hmm.
You got it. Jim, just wait till you hear about all the changes I got to do to my layout.
I'm glad it's yours and not mine.
Yeah, there's something interesting. I can't remember exactly where it was I got this. I think it's Small Railroad magazine, but anyway, fella's got a layout and just kind of keep it interesting. His buildings, he built them on like gator board, and that way he can set them out, do operations, whatever, for a little while, and then take them up, put different buildings out. So kind of the scenery keeps changing on it.
I think I've seen that one too. He changed eras.
Yeah, it wasn't the same all the time. He said that way it kept it interesting too. You never really come in, got used to seeing all the same buildings and everything.
You could probably change out your buildings too in an op session too as well.
Alan McClellan, he had the V&O up in Dayton, phenomenal layout, and it evolved over the years where he was with steam. Well, then as he transitioned into diesel, he started, he had coal mines that were shut down, which totally amazing to me that he had the room that you could actually have, an industry that he wasn't using. He would start pulling out his turntables, just leaving the pit there, filling them in so you could still see it was there, and putting up regular diesel shop buildings. And he transitioned right on through the years. It was really interesting the way he did that.
And see, if that was me, I left the turntable, put the engine house on there, just to screw with people when they pull the engine in, turn the turntable on, and send it off to another track, make them pull out the other end.
Mm-hmm. But he tried to do his, like real life, and he would shut down buildings, and he would change buildings, stuff like that. So, I mean, he kept upgrading. The latest one I've done is, well, let's see. Yeah, in the centerfold of the magazine, the car barn there on the left-hand side, that's all been replaced now. I have I scratch-built a brick and wooden new structure that goes there. And I'm to the point on my layout that it's, you could say my layout is basically done, really, 100%. So anything I do now, I can change buildings, but I have to build a building that's going to fit in that space.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm really limited. And the wife won't let me build across the washer dryer mountain range over the tabletop, which would make a nice little switching area, but I am landlocked. So even though I named it after her, no, I can't get any more room. I'm stuck.
I like Joe Fugate has a really interesting concept too. His layout is always in the 80s, so it's it's 2015 right now. So his layout's 1985. Next year it'll be 1986. Next year 1987, and in 2021 the layout will be 30 years old, and it will go into the 4th time that the layout started over at 1980 again, which means he gets to bring equipment on and off the layout during. I modeled 1951, 1952 also, but that's a really interesting era where a lot of the 4th generation or 3rd generation diesel power was coming on. All through that 10-year period, he gets to bring equipment off from the shelf and rotate out equipment and move more equipment in and model a merger and stuff like that. So I think you can include a whole lot of interest if you take into account the era progression of the real world too, and not always try to, some people like Burgess with Yosemite Valley. His layout is May 23rd, 1945, and has been the same date for 30 plus years or 25 years. And I think you could, and he has an incredible layout. I mean, it's hard to argue with that level of success, but I think there can be a tremendous amount of interest gleaned by this progression. And I think Utah Bell, Eric Bruman, I think he did something like that too.
It's an interesting idea. It just costs a lot more money to keep upgrading your engines and all in your cars.
It does in the short term, but if you're talking about a layout that has a 30-year lifespan,
right.
like Joe, I mean, I'm going to keep buying equipment. To operate my layout effectively, I'm still very early in my layout's construction. I still need quite a bit of equipment. I need, another 6 or 8, articulated locomotives and another 150 coal cars to operate it effectively. In 5 or 6 years, I'll have well met that, and I will still be wanting to buy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. At a certain point, yes, right now, I'm trying to make 1951 work. Absolutely. But at a certain point, you can start, I think there's so much opportunity to make sure you never get bored. Just keeping your mind open to do things like that. So, right now I couldn't get bored just getting mine to a certain point. But as the years go on, you need a little more interest.
Right. No, I agree with you. I mean, you should not get bored. That's the whole idea of the layout. And Bob Lawson, his layout is set in, let me think, September. He's got it down to the day, 1951, I think, something like that. At 4:15 in the afternoon, shift change. And his whole layout is based on this one certain time. And that's why everybody, all his people and everything are doing what they're doing. And it's fabulous to look at. It's like going into a museum almost.
Yeah.
He will never upgrade his, but that's what he wanted, Again, it's all personal preference. And it takes, if we all did the exact same thing, we wouldn't be doing this very often, you know what I mean? It'd be kind of boring.
No, they get boring quick.
So it's nice to see the other stuff that people are doing, even though I may not end up doing it. It's nice to see other people doing it and seeing what they're accomplishing. I enjoy that. I think that is cool. I mean, I'm kind of, like I said, with the Carroll Valley, I'm basically very limited now what I can do. I mean, I could upgrade, but I like steam engines, and I like very early, ugly diesels, AS16, you know, stuff like that. So
Nice.
I think I'm just going to leave it the way it is, probably. Every time I have a problem with the steam, I threaten to go to diesel.
Oh, that's got so much better in the last few years, though. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I was so frustrated trying to make steam operate. And these days, though, some of the steam that you can get, it runs so doggone good. It's not such a big deal. But what I mean with operation, what I mean to operate, how I mean to operate mine will depend on crew size. So if two guys come over, we may operate a slow Saturday in May of 1951 versus if I can get 8 or 9 people together to operate the layout, instead we'll operate a midday on a Thursday or something, and it'll all be in a very similar time period, but I'm going to have enough flexibility in the day. Still going to be May or early June or something like that, but because you know it's hard to replant trees, hard enough to build the first 4,000. So
yeah.
But a little bit of flexibility lets you, you know, I could operate, you know, if I come home in the evening and feel like actually operating and there's nobody really around, I figure I could, you know, turn the lights down, turn on a few blue lights. I could operate those single trains that came over the layout at 2 a.m. and I'm still prototypically operating based on timetable, not even screwing up my switch lists.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, guys, it's 11 o'clock. Steve, I'd really like to go ahead and thank you again for coming on the show and talking about operations and sharing with us all your views and everything. It's greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. I've had a good time.
And just a little reminder to all the viewers to keep checking into YouTube Model Builders website at youtubemodelbuilders.com for all the latest news, schedule, and info on the live show hosted by Big Bill Graham, which is once a month, and the eMag, which is a bi-monthly. Viewers can sign up for the subscription link to be emailed to you. Plus, the eMag is always looking for model railroaders to send in articles and pictures to be published. Plus, don't forget about the new improved presentations with Gino, Barry, and Mike MRR Tech shows. Newly added and normal moderated presentations with Dude and Troy. Plus, don't forget about the Thursday night general hangouts with our very own Johnny Reb of Southeast Rails. Hopefully, you guys all enjoyed our presentations. And once again, thank you very much, Steve, for coming on board here with us and going over operations. I know I've learned quite a bit about everything that's been going on here because I was just a little shot in the dark there and had no idea what was going on. So thanks again, Steve. It's greatly appreciated.
Very welcome. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you, Steve. I have thoroughly enjoyed the show this evening.
No, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Yes, Johnny.
One change to Thursday night hangouts you didn't know about.
Okay.
Yep. We're giving away $1 million at the end. No.
Oh, I wish. I wish. Can I be the holder?
Road.
Yeah.
I'll just put it all inside the bank and let it collect interest for another week or so. That's all.
Yeah. No, starting this week, Thursday nights are going to be recorded, so we'll have a Q&A working.
Okay, so we will have a Q&A then on Thursday night so that people can go ahead and watch and go and ask questions of what's going on for the moderated hangout. Great.
Yeah, because I've got people that said they didn't want to be in the panel, you know, on camera or whatever, but they did want the hangout of the Q&A so they could ask questions. So Dave's got that cleared, so we'll go back to recording Thursday night again, and it'll be put up on the website.
Okay, great. Okay. Cool. Thanks, Johnny.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Steve. Thank everybody for watching, and you guys all have a good evening.
Okay. I'll get back with you guys after vacation. So.
Okie doke.